Hi everyone, welcome back. My name is Dr. Jess and today we're going to be in the kitchen making 3 easy gluten-free breakfast recipes. I'm even going to show you how you can prep these in bulk and store them in the freezer for easy go-to options in the morning. The first thing we're going to do is prep our gluten-free sourdough English muffins. Now, this is something that I like to do because I enjoy all the health benefits from sourdough bread making, but if you're in a hurry and you don't have time to do this, that's totally fine. They make gluten-free English muffins. You can find them in either usually the fridge section or the freezer section at the grocery store, and that's totally fine. You can do that too. But today we are going to be making my gluten-free sourdough English muffins. Okay, a few items that you're gonna need for this sourdough gluten-free English muffin recipe. I do recommend a standing mixer. You could probably use a hand mixer too, but standing mixer is probably easier. You're going to need a kitchen scale to weigh out all your flours and ingredients. And the reason we do that is so that it's more exact and it will just yield a better product. The other thing you're gonna need is a gluten-free sourdough starter. Now, I'm gonna be coming out with a video in the next week that shows how I did my gluten-free sourdough starter, but you will have to get that established before you make this recipe. I also recommend having a glass bowl that you can let this bulk rise in. That way it doesn't interact with the metal of the standing mixer. That can inhibit the rise. I've experienced this personally, so I always let it rise in a glass bowl, but you can also mess around with it too and see if that does make a difference or not for you. All right, we're going to start by weighing out our dry ingredients. Now, I'm using a cup for cup gluten-free flour by King Arthur. You could also use, I know Bob's Red Mill makes one as well. I haven't tried that one, but I'm sure it works just fine. Next, we're going to measure out our arrowroot flour. And our potato starch. Combining these different flours really gives the English muffins a nice texture. Here we're adding some instant yeast and then some extra xanthan gum. Next we add salt and combine all the flours together. Next, I'm just going to stir up my sourdough starter. As you can see, it is nice and bubbly. I fed it this morning and it's been fermenting for about 2 to 3 hours. Now, my sourdough starter is a little bit thinner than I probably would like, but it's still going to work great for this recipe. I'm measuring out 227 grams and I'm adding it to my dry ingredients. We're going to combine the sourdough starter with the dry ingredients until it becomes a pebbly texture. Next, we're going to add in the rest of our wet ingredients, which is some warm water, 1 egg, and 2 tablespoons of oil. I use olive oil today, but I've also used avocado oil as well. Now we're going to start combining all of our ingredients on a low to medium setting for about 30 seconds, and then we're going to mix on high for about 3 minutes. The dough should be nice and smooth, and it will be pretty sticky, but it shouldn't be wet. I lined the glass bowl with some oil, and now I'm just going to transfer our dough into the glass bowl. So we're gonna allow this to rise for about 2 to 4 hours. It really just kind of depends. You wanna put your dough in a warm place. So I live in Arizona and it's the dead of summer, so it is very warm, but it's rather cool in my house. So I've been putting it out in my garage, and let me tell you, it rises real quick. So find a warm place. You can also put it in your oven with the oven light on. That usually works pretty well too. You want it to double in size. That's the goal. So it just kind of depends on how quickly it's gonna go for you. Now we're gonna get started on our breakfast casserole and our breakfast burritos. I'm gonna start by sauteing some peppers and onions and cooking up our hash browns. Okay, so now we are going to assemble our breakfast casserole. I have the oven preheated to 400 degrees, and I'm just gonna start adding all of our toppings. So we have peppers and onions, tomatoes, kale, and then I'm going to be adding in just some scrambled eggs over top with salt and some 21 seasonings from Trader Joe's. That a friend of mine gave me. Ah, so cute. Alright, let's crack some eggs, shall we? So I'm thinking I'm going to do about 8 to 10 eggs. Now we're gonna put this in the oven at 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. I usually wait to see that the edges are starting to brown and the egg is nice and firm. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is work on our breakfast burritos. So I'm about to make some scrambled eggs. I've already pre-made bacon, so that's already done. I'm gonna add in some of the peppers and onions, and then I'm gonna also slice up a little bit of cheese for my husband's breakfast burritos. We like to use a sheep or goat cheese because we find that we digest it a little bit easier. But if you are dairy free, just go ahead and leave out that step. I'm gonna make some for myself that does not have any cheese because cheese just isn't really my friend. These are the gluten-free tortillas we're going to be using today. We're going to start by assembling our burritos. With the tortilla, we're going to add some scrambled eggs, some peppers and onions, a slice of bacon, and a little bit of Manchego sheep cheese. Then we're just going to roll it up. Repeat with the remainder of our ingredients. Now Now, like I said, I'm making everything in bulk today because I'm planning on putting these burritos and sandwiches in the freezer so that we have them on hand and they can be some easy breakfast options for us. And let me tell you, they don't just have to be for breakfast, they can be for lunch or dinner too. Now that all the burritos are wrapped, I'm going to let these fully cool for about an hour. That way we don't wrap up any extra moisture. Once they are cooled, I'm going to wrap them in some plastic wrap and then mark the ones that have cheese and then stick them in a freezer Ziploc bag.
Now we are going to work on the breakfast sandwiches. I'm going to start by making our sourdough gluten-free English muffins, and then we will make some eggs and then assemble the sandwiches.
Okay, as you can see, our sourdough English muffin bread has completely risen. It is doubled in size and it looks perfect. I always start with a thin layer of cornmeal. Today I'm using some masa because that's what I have, and I'm just going to do that so that the English muffins don't stick to the pan. So I just cooked up some bacon. Now I'm using that bacon fat with a little bit of extra avocado oil so that my eggs don't stick to the pan. And we're gonna fry up some eggs. Now I'm gonna go ahead and break the yolk. You don't have to, but I just felt like that was gonna be easier. Once they're fully cooked, set them aside for when we assemble our sandwiches. Once the English muffins were complete, I did let them cool for a little while and then I cut them in half, put a thin layer of butter on them, and put them under the broiler in the oven. Now that they're nice and toasty, we're gonna go ahead and assemble our sandwiches. I'm doing this super simple. All I'm doing is 1 egg, 1 slice of bacon, and then putting the top of the English muffin on top. We're gonna let this cool for about an hour and then we will wrap these up in plastic and stick them in a freezer bag and place them in the freezer. All right, you guys, we did it. We prepped breakfast for at least a couple weeks. How cool is that? If you want any of these recipes, I will leave them down in the description box below. And I want to make sure that you remember to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so that you are notified every time I post a new video. I make one new video every week on healthy recipes, natural remedies, and living sustainably. Be well.